Appreciate you joining me. The Lake Lewis Jr. Show brought to you by the good folks over at Crossover Meats. If you haven't had one of those Crossover Meat burgers, you've got to do that, folks. They are really good, and we can't keep talking about them enough. Appreciate all their support that they've done in helping put together this show with the good folks over here at WOL. And if you're around the D.C. area right now and you're listening on the radio, which you can do, by the way, folks, all you have to do is join us on 95.9 FM and then 1450 AM, and it's WOL. We've got a lot of stuff that we're going to be breaking down today a little bit later on. I'll also have a person responsible for the Crossover Meats and WOL, both collectively working with myself, and that's Mr. Sheldon Chandler. We'll get him on a little bit later on, get his thoughts on what I'm getting ready to talk about for the first part of the show. And it's Terry McLaurin and his contract. And I know I vowed that I wasn't going to go there, but there have been some developments that have happened that I think could play an intricate role into Terry McLaurin possibly getting his contract. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll also talk about the young gun, Jayden Daniels, the guy that's taken the league by storm and taken this town by storm. He actually was officially given the nod as being one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. And we'll talk about what outlet mentioned that outlet that I'm very familiar with, obviously. So we'll talk about that. Washington, it's coming, folks. It's here. It's training camp. Training camp officially will be in the books starting next week. And, the rookies are reporting early on Friday, and it wasn't like that in the past. It was like everyone showed up at the same time. But I think now they're trying to get the rookies, kind of acclimated. And it's changed from even a couple years ago when they started doing that with rookies. The Chargers in L.A., they already have their players there right now. So I think what they're doing as far as bringing the rookies in early is look, they've been there for some OTAs. They've been there for rookie mini camp. They've been there for mini camp. But they haven't been there for training camp, where it gets real. Now it's real. This to me is when you can say the NFL season has officially began, or however you want to word that, because it's important to keep in mind that training camp is the lead up to preseason games, we know, and then the regular season games. And some people will say, those preseason games don't matter. None of that stuff matters. The veterans don't want to be on the field. Well, we understand that, but everyone's not a guaranteed lock to be on a 53-man roster in the NFL. There are a lot of guys out there that need every rep that they can get. They need every eye on them from coaches. They understand that. There's some guys that know they have no shot to make this football team, but yet guess what? They're still auditioning. They're still putting tape out there for other teams to see them. So it is important, and I don't want anyone to think that it's not. It's very important. If you would like to call in on today's show, it's very simple. All you have to do is call 1-800-450-7876. Once again, that's 1-800-450-7876, and we will be taking calls today. Yesterday, something happened that I think changes kind of the narrative on this whole Terry McLaurin contract extension situation. We understand that Terry McLaurin is a Washington Commander. Terry McLaurin, if you can believe it, actually played in a Washington Redskins uniform 6 years ago. Well, now he's in a situation where he wants a contract extension. And there's some people out there that are a little confused by it, considering he was extended 2 years ago. Well, the market's changed so drastically in the NFL with contracts and players and things of that nature that when you're a really good player and you've proven that, you kind of want to stay in the mix with everyone else who around you at your respective position is getting paid. And over the last 5 years, there's been a boon as far as wide receivers getting broken off, making a lot of money in the NFL. And we just saw something happen yesterday that I can't stress to you enough how important it was. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the New York Jets, signed a 4-year contract with the Jets. Oh, well, Lake, why is that such a big deal? That's New York. That has nothing to do with Washington. It has everything to do with them because guess what? Garrett Wilson was the guy that all off season, there was grumblings that maybe he didn't want to be in New York anymore. Maybe they didn't want him in New York. Obviously, they put that to bed yesterday with the contract, and we'll talk about the contract and the parameters of it and why that goes back to Terry McLaurin, okay? But Garrett Wilson is an Ohio State guy. Terry McLaurin, Ohio State guy. Garrett Wilson, to me, is very similar to a Terry McLaurin as far as their style of play. They're tough receivers, make contested catches, live in the middle of the field on people. And I thought, in the offseason before the Deebo Samuel trade to Washington, that maybe Garrett Wilson might be a guy Washington may look at, and then people were like, oh, well, they're kind of one and the same. He and Terry McLaurin, it would be like getting a clone of Terry. Okay, I'm going to let you guys have that. You said it. You said it yourself, that he could be a clone of Terry McLaurin. Okay, well, if that's the case, yesterday, Mr. Wilson signed a 4-year, $130 million contract, okay, with $90 million guaranteed, okay? Let me say that one more time. 4 years, $130 million with $90 million guaranteed. Okay. You look at the numbers. Garrett Wilson is one of 4 players, youngest, players to basically have in his first 3 seasons as a wide receiver 80 catches or more for 3 straight seasons and over 1,000 yards or more for 3 straight seasons. Man, I couldn't think of a better player to break all this stuff down with. And the reason for that is because who were his quarterbacks in New York the whole time he was doing that? This is so similar to Terry, it's scary, okay? He had Mike White throwing him the football, Zach Wilson throwing him the football, Aaron Rodgers coming off a torn Achilles. He didn't necessarily have the best quarterback play, and he still threw up dumb numbers, okay? Really good numbers. And that's why he got this contract. Terry McLaurin and him are very similar as far as the type of players they are, but this is the thing. Terry's thrown up these kind of numbers for 6 seasons, okay? Terry has been the face of a franchise for at least 4 out of his 6 years in Washington. Terry has never complained, not one time. You still don't hear him complaining right now, although he's holding out. You still don't hear him complaining. I say all this because could Garrett Wilson's contract be the blueprint? Could it be that contract that, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn have to look at? Not the CeeDee Lamb contract, from a year ago. Not Amon St. Brown from Detroit. Not his contract from, 4 years ago. Not A.J. Brown even. His contract from 2 years ago. Okay? Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, forget about it. They're in a world of their own as far as wide receivers. But you know what the thing is all those guys have in common? All those guys have in common that they're 30-plus north as far as the money that they make per year. Jamar Chase is at $40 million, just so you know. Okay. And on top of that, the other thing that all those guys have in common, besides the fact that they're just great football players, is the fact that they got guaranteed money. They got a bulk of their contract was the guaranteed money. And there's clearly no doubt in my mind that that's what this is about with Terry McLaurin. It's the guaranteed contract. Okay, so there's so many layers to this. I think we can just really dissect and slice this thing up like some apple pie. It's the layers of what could be going on here. The first thing that jumps off to me about this contract with Garrett Wilson and, playing, a similarity game, so to speak, with Terry McLaurin, there's an age difference, though. Garrett Wilson's 26 years old. Terry McLaurin's 30. Don't think those 4 years mean something. They absolutely do. And I think that could be the sticking point here. I think everyone understands Terry McLaurin is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Okay. I think everyone understands that Terry McLaurin is the type of person and player you'd want your family around. he's that dynamic of a person. He's a great young man. Okay. So am I on here trying to get Terry paid? No. But if it does happen after we've had this conversation in a day or two, I'm going to ask Terry for some change because, this is what we do. But I do think that Terry is in a situation now where they're looking at his age, no doubt, because all those other receivers that I just named, those other 5 receivers that each year has reset the market, so to speak, and gotten, received a whole lot of guaranteed money. All of those guys got their contracts under 27. A.J. Brown, no. I know people say, no, A.J. Brown didn't. But A.J. Brown's at like $32 million a year, and they gave him an extension in Philadelphia. So if you're Terry, you have to look at maybe an A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's, wasn't 30 when he got his extension. He was a little younger, but now he's at that age. So the question is, if you're Terry McLaurin and you're his camp and you're his folks, do you have to understand that this could potentially be the holdup, your age? Could it be the fact that, if you were to get a 3-year deal, okay, let's just say you got that 3-year deal. Do you understand in 3 years, there's a chance that Terry McLaurin wouldn't even be on the roster. And that's a lot of money. So if they're going to pay him, it has to be because they know right now they're in Super Bowl mode. They're in Super Bowl or bust mode over the next 2-3 years. And I think they feel like that. I think this whole organization now is in a situation where they feel like they have to be present as far as chasing a Super Bowl every year. And while you have a franchise quarterback like a Jayden Daniels, you're going to be in those situations regardless. That's what all the great teams have in common. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well, because that plays into this too. So Jayden Daniels in 2 years, will be eligible for a contract extension. Again, that's just how these things go. And I can safely tell you guys, anyone that's listening right now, if you're in your car, you want to pull over so this doesn't throw you off a little bit. If you're at home or if you're watching, you might want to sit down. Jayden Daniels is going to get an NFL record contract. That's just the way it's going. If he has the same type of year or better this year than he had last year, you can bank on it that when his time comes up, he's going to be making a ridiculous amount of money. There's a reason why the draft is coming to D.C. in 2 years. There's a reason why this new stadium hopefully gets done and is up in 5 years, 4 years. It's because they're going to need the revenue. They're going to need the revenue to pay this guy. People talk about backing up Brinks trucks and stuff like that. They might have to have a Boeing, 747 fly his money in, because he's going to be making a lot of money. And I predict it's going to be the biggest contract in the history of the NFL. Not blowing smoke. That's just the way it is. So when you say these things, do you think that they're considering Terry McLaurin? Is he going to be part of when Jayden Daniels gets his money? Is Terry McLaurin going to be part of this? I pose this to you, my friends. 2-year deal for Terry McLaurin with 3rd-year option. And the reason why you do that is because, and I hate to say to Terry, you have to prove it again and again and again, because all he's done since he's been in Washington is prove that he's a really good football player. Last year, he proved that he's an elite receiver. Okay. He did that because he had what? He had an elite quarterback with him. So when you think of all those things, now you go back to the age. Okay. If he's 30 now, in 3 years, if he were to get a 3-year deal, he'd be 33 years old. Most receivers at that age aren't really doing it anymore. And I'm not saying they're not doing anything, because Jerry Rice played almost at 40. You got to be a special receiver to maintain that dominance once you get into your mid-30s, And I know 33 is not old by walking down the street standards, not even close, okay? But on a football field, they start to turn the page. They start to look elsewhere. That's just the nature of the business of sports. It's younger, cheaper. That's what it is. Okay. So that's another reason why maybe right now Terry McLaurin is pushing to get his money, because he understands this more than likely will be the last major contract that he were to sign, at least in Washington. Okay. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out over the next couple of days with training camp approaching. I've said before, and I'm still going to say it again, I think Terry, come next week, will be in Washington signed. I think when training camp starts, I think Terry McLaurin will be out on that football field. I truly believe that. I think there's a reason why these kind of signings happen. They happen right before training camp. I've been saying this over and over and over. And you saw something like that happen yesterday with Garrett Wilson, who a lot of people didn't even think would be back in New York, like I said. So that's a good sign for Terry that Garrett Wilson got a contract, because now you kind of see what you can work with as far as the numbers. If you're Adam Peters, if you're Dan Quinn, if you're Josh Harris. Mark this down, because you heard it right here. You heard it here on WOL. Lake Lewis, it's as you heard when the show comes on, it's my opinions. It's me saying this as a team insider, as a guy that covers the team and covers the league, that I do think here we are at 11-16, 7-15. Okay. Terry McLaurin will be in camp. I truly believe that. Okay. And if he's not, hey, I gotta eat some crow. That's what goes on, but I think Terry McLaurin will be in camp, and hopefully, that makes some of you guys feel better. So if you're in your car right now, you can go ahead and start driving again. And, if you're home or whatever else you're doing, you can get back to work or doing whatever you're doing and still listen to the melodious voice, hopefully. Okay. All right. So with that said, there's another thing that happened that I thought was really awesome. And it came from Jeremy Fowler. Does a great job, covering the league as well. NFL analyst with ESPN. Okay. And I'm very familiar with ESPN as well. And I haven't worked for them, and let me be quiet now, but working for them. Okay. So let's put it this way. What he did was he actually went to executives with coaches, players, and got a full, gamut of everyone that can make an astute, reasonable decision and assumption, and understand how players are. So I say this because a lot of people outside of this market are always telling me, or always telling the fans of this team, that they're just their head is in the clouds and they don't understand that Jayden's going to have a sophomore slump, and I'm like, cut it out. He's not going to have a sophomore slump. He's not going to have a sophomore slump because the organization is in a good place. The organization is set up for success. The organization has put him in a situation that they want to make sure that he's going to be successful and that he's not going to be in a position to fail. They want to make sure that he's got the right coaching, the right nutrition, the right talent around him. And what did they do? They went out in the offseason and they shored up their offensive line. They brought in Laramie Tunsil to play left tackle. He's a 5-time Pro Bowler. So that helps. That's the most important position on the offensive line for any quarterback, especially a young quarterback. And then what else did they do? Their first-round draft pick this year was Josh Connolly Jr. from Oregon, who's a tackle, who's going to man the right tackle position. So they wanted to make sure that they put Jayden Daniels in the proper position to be successful this year. And they went out and they got Deebo Samuel to pair up with Terry McLaurin. They also went out and drafted, Jalen Lane from Virginia Tech, a speedster. So they're doing everything in their power to make sure that this young man is going to be successful. So that's why I say there will be no second-year slumps. Also, you have to understand this guy's temperament. He wants to be great. He doesn't want to be just the best football player in the NFC East or the NFC. He wants to be the best player in the NFL, and ultimately wants to be the best football player of all time. That's just him. And I can say that knowing him and being in that locker room. And that's not him bragging those things out. It's his work ethic that shows you that that's his temperament. Okay. So I think for Jayden Daniels to get this kind of recognition from ESPN, from Jeremy Fowler, from these league executives, that they placed him as number 5 in the top 5 quarterbacks right now. Okay. That tells you a lot. I know a couple months ago I did my top 5 quarterbacks, and mine differs from ESPN's just a little bit. Okay. It differs. Mine was Patrick Mahomes 1, Lamar Jackson 2, Josh Allen 3, Jalen Hurts number 4. Yes, I know some of you probably just Lost your food. Yeah, I have an eagle. Yeah, I'm sorry. The guy just won a Super Bowl, and he was the MVP of the Super Bowl. As a matter of fact, he's been in 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years. Probably should have been the MVP of the one they lost against Kansas City. You can't keep that guy off the list. He's a winner for a champion, okay? So I had Jalen Hurts 4, and I had Jayden Daniels number 5. All right, that was my list. ESPN's list, a little different, okay? Same guys in the top 5 with the exception of Jalen Hurts on their list, I think was number 9. I don't know how that's possible, but that's their interpretation, and that's what the league executives came up with, okay? So it's not hate. It's not fans hating. It's not media hating. That's league executives saying that he's still a top 10 quarterback, Jalen Hurts we're talking about now. But on their list, he was number 9. That's low to me. That's super low for a Super Bowl winner. Okay. The wild card guy that always comes up. I just had this conversation with someone on another show. It's Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow clearly is a top 5 talent in the NFL as far as quarterback. I mean, he might be top 2 or 3. That guy can do it all from the quarterback position. But you know the difference is, and I'm just safely saying this. Joe Burrow, always tell people if you want to know how good someone is and you want to know what someone else can do is replace them, put them in each other's position. What would Jayden Daniels have looked like as a rookie in Cincinnati's offense with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? I think you guys already know the answer to that. What would Joe Burrow have looked like in Washington last year? He still would have looked great, don't get me wrong. But all I'm saying is if you give Jayden Daniels more weapons, which I think Adam Peters, we just talked about that, they've tried to address for their offense this year because they still have Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, who they drafted in the 7th round, a running back, from New Mexico. They're trying to do something on offense this year. Make no mistake about it. Last year they still were a top, 6 offense, and they were a top 6 offense with pretty much scheme that got them there, and that quarterback, of course. Okay? But now when you put in talent all around Jayden and Terry to go along with Cliff Kingsbury's brilliant mind, I'm telling you, it can get real interesting and ugly as far as what this offense can do. So that's what I'm saying. When you talk about Jayden and he's too young right now to be in the top 5, because those are the comments that I've received from a lot of people. He's too young. He's not, he doesn't have it yet. He hasn't earned it yet. He hasn't won yet. I mean, all he knows is the 1 year he was there, they were in the NFC Championship game. How much more winning did he need? I understand one more game, they would have been in the Super Bowl. But if that's what you're going to base that on, that's not good enough, because you know why? Because now I'm going to bring the Joe Burrow situation up. Joe Burrow took Cincinnati to the Super Bowl, 3 years ago? Okay, they lost to the Rams. But Joe Burrow, if you look at any offensive category last year, passing-wise, Cincinnati was number 1. I mean, they were doing crazy things offensively last year. Their defense was atrocious, probably was the worst in the NFL last year. But nevertheless, they didn't make the playoffs. And I know some people are going to come at me and say, Lake, the AFC has better teams. Stop it. You can't have it both ways. If you're going to say that Jayden hasn't done enough and he's too young and yeah, they got to the NFC Championship game, but, he's got to win more. Okay, if that's the standard you're going to hold him to, then you got to hold Joe Burrow to that. You can't take a team to the Super Bowl and then 3 years later with the same offensive weapons, if not more talent on that offense, your offense is putting up 40 on people at will, and you still don't make the playoffs. There was a time early in the year last year where Cincinnati was struggling mightily, where they do this every year pretty much. They start off super slow, and then at the end of the year, they've caught on fire, but it's a little too late. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. But this whole thing, as far as Jayden Daniels getting this love and this recognition, is real. It shows the Washington fan base that not just local media sees him at the way we do. This is on a national scale. The Washington, like I said last week here on this show, they have a shiny new toy that, people are unfamiliar with here. People here are used to, driving mid car sedans, and now they got a luxury vehicle. And I'm talking, analogies obviously with players. I don't know what you're driving. I'm really out there, but I'm just saying, you haven't had a franchise quarterback before. Now that you have one and you see that people are recognizing that he's a franchise quarterback, it's like some people can't even embrace that. They're still like, it's just 1 year. I don't buy it. I'm not sure if he really can, do this again. I need to see it. Folks, let me tell you, I'm telling you what I've covered for years, and I'm telling you what my eyes see. I've never seen anything like that in that uniform in Washington, and I've covered some really good football players, but I've never seen a player that on the offensive side of the ball that literally strikes fear. And I've said this before jokingly. I've said this before. Jayden Daniels is going to wreck many a happy home. And I say that because he's going to keep defensive coordinators up all night studying and not doing other stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Jayden Daniels is a nightmare. Jayden Daniels is the kind of player that Washington hasn't had on the offensive side of the ball that really, really shuts down, film sessions for other teams where they've got to watch this guy, not just with his arm, but he can kill you with his feet, with his legs. He can do so many dynamic things that it's going to be interesting to see how in his second year, how his game is going to step up. But I can assure you, from what we've seen so far in OTAs and minicamp, he just looks different again. Like, he obviously looked different last year as a rookie, looked better than anything I saw, and he was a rookie. But this year he looks better than that version of Jayden Daniels from last year. And he was doing that without Terry being out there, at least for the days we were out there. I know Terry was out there during OTAs, but for the days that we were there, he wasn't there. So just think about Terry and Deebo Samuel, and that should be enough to get you excited. Don't think Adam Peters went out and brought in Deebo Samuels to be their number one receiver. No, he brought in Deebo Samuel to pair with Terry McLaurin and all those offensive linemen they brought in for Jayden Daniels, who now is on ESPN's list of, top 5 quarterbacks. I did see some of the other lists out there. Laramie Tunsil, who we just talked about, the 5-time Pro Bowler, was listed as their 7th best left tackle. So, that's kind of low to me personally. I probably would have had him cracking in the top 5, but I do know that Laramie's had some penalty issues in the past couple seasons, and I think he had like 10 penalties last year. So that's a lot for an offensive lineman. And I will say Houston's offense and Washington's offense, where Laramie came from, are two totally different type of offenses, and Washington's is more tempo. So sometimes when you don't have a lot of time to think, you don't make mistakes because you can play fast and free. And I think that's what they're hoping with Laramie Tunsil, who was on that same ESPN executive list at number 7. What are your thoughts? As always, if we open up the phone lines, you can call us at 1-800-450-7876, 1-800-450-7876. And shortly, I expect to bring on Mr. Sheldon Chandler. We'll talk about the good folks over at Crossover Meats who help make this show possible, and they're doing a great job. And again, if you haven't had one of those crossover burgers, you really need to do yourself a favor and check them out. They're over at Food Line, your local Food Line, or Giant Food. I even think that they're now in Walmart. So they're really doing their things. They're really pushing the product out properly. And again, it's a very health oriented burger. And for me, obviously, with me and my health and have lost weight and things like that, it was just perfect, the synergy that was there. And, so I'm really proud to talk about the burger anytime you get. It's not something that I have to do. It's something that I want to do and like to do. So we'll talk about that as well. And I got some guys on the team that are actually going to be rocking the burgers as well, and, pushing out some good content for them. So it's a real movement, folks. It's a Crossover Meats movement. So make sure, again, you check them out at crossovermeats.com. I didn't mention earlier, but if you want to subscribe to the program, it's very simple. All you have to do is go to your, any major podcast carrier, and it's on there, the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. You can watch the show on YouTube on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show channel. And then, of course, you can listen to it right here as you are right now here on WOL in DC. And, someone asked me recently, what was it like to be back on the radio in DC? And I'm like, it's a dream come true. It's a nice setup. It's a nice situation. And, to be able to cover your team, your childhood team, and then to be able to be on a prestigious radio station, to be able to be on, and I can say this too, a black-owned radio station on top of that, that's just it's the best of both worlds. You can't beat it. And, I'm really excited about that. And here in a second, I'm going to bring in a person I consider a friend, and we talk about the story all the time. We reached out to him, and he reached out to me as far as coming on this station and, putting the show on there. And he's a big Commanders fan. And, everybody says they're fans. And then when you talk to him, you're like, I kind of got to, scale it down just a little bit. I don't have to scale it down with this guy. He knows his stuff. He's a big Commanders fan, like I said. And he wanted to talk about Mr. Terry McLaurin today. So let's bring in S. Dot. That's what we call him, Mr. Sheldon Chandler. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, man, we're back in the building late. Whole staff.
There you go. Back in the building. All right.
Back in the building. We're happy to be here. Lake Lewis
good to see
Junior
you,
Show.
You've
been doing big things, man. I've seen you online.
I'm trying, man.
Numbers
trying.
Are going up.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the audience here has done a great job with making this thing happen. And we've got some pretty good fanfare here. And I've had, even some of my colleagues asking me, like, as far as being on the station here and how did that come about? Because you're a TV guy now. And I'm like, no, don't do that to me. Don't put me in a box. I'm trying to be versatile, but obviously radio is where I started in this business. It's my first love. And so you are instrumental with getting me back on the radio.
Well, it's still the number one platform to really talk to people.
Yeah.
Where you get, it's an intimate space on the radio. Radio is different now because it's all digital, but still they're able to really patch in with you, and you're able to really build your brand in a positive way.
Yeah.
And so I'm happy that you gave radio the opportunity to even have you on, and we're also happy for your sponsor, Crossover Meat, for making this thing happen.
Absolutely. And you said you were skeptical at first, like you didn't think I would be interested or something like that. Like,
well, I'm telling a story because
it's all good. And, we want them to know we don't hold anything back here. It's all
we gotta
real.
Talk about Terry though.
No, we're gonna talk about Terry. Yeah.
I actually was a fan of yours, so I watched your show on YouTube. It would come up on my phone, when I watched you from, I would say maybe a good 4 or 5 months. Lake Lewis Jr. I just liked your platform, the startup, and how your segments ran. So it was attractive to me.
Gotcha.
And did you were, there are a lot of people that's on there online that you could see talking about the Commanders, and I still do watch other folks.
It's a lot of good content out there.
Yes, a lot of content out there. Everyone has the different perspectives, and everyone has the different ways of putting it out there. But I was just really attracted to the way you had it. And I had a meeting here at Urban One, and they said, hey, we need to get some sports back on. And I said, man, I got this guy. I know I watch him all the time. Why don't I reach out to him? Folks, I gave it one chance, said a prayer, because most folks in your line of duty,
yeah, I've heard,
they're not the easiest to speak to. And someone, a commoner like myself, reaching out, I normally have to go through a gatekeeper who put me to another gatekeeper, and then there's another gatekeeper down the line before you even get to someone who is on the air with NFL and ESPN. However, one email to Lake, and I turned around and he responded in like 2 minutes, and that was kind of shocking. I was like, hold up, he responded. And he said, sure, I would love the opportunity. And sky's the limit from there. We've been rocking for the past 2.5 months, and he's actually become a brother. That's the thing. If you get to know Lake, folks, all of you that's listening, he's the type of person that looks out and reaches out to his fan base and folks that follow him, and a leader in the community, definitely highly respected. And you know yourself as you listen to him on the radio and other platforms that he's on, he is someone that deserves a lot of respect for what he does.
Man, listen, that was so good, but I don't have any cash in my wallet or nothing, man.
You got to give me some.
No, man, that was. I appreciate that. Like, you know, and that's something that's important. You know, let's just be honest about this. You know, I look different from what, you know, I'm in the locker room with, and I don't mean the players. I mean the people covering the players. And for me, I've always said, you know, whenever the day would come, you know, that God would bless me with an opportunity to have a platform, I was going to use it in the right way, and use it in a way that can attract people that look like me to understand that you can do it, that you can make it. If, you know, whatever you put your heart and your mind and your soul into, you can achieve it. So when you called me, I saw somebody that looked like me first and foremost. Right. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna reach back out to this brother and see what he has to say. And I loved what I heard, and you know, here we are now, you know, trying to do something different and needed, frankly. You know, I do think it's needed in the sports realm. So I'm excited about that. So with all that said, I know you didn't want to come on here and you know, have a soliloquy from me. I know you wanted to talk about Terry McLaurin.
Can you spell soliloquy?
Can I spell? Nah, bro.
Let's go to Terry, number 17. Let's talk number 17, because I can spell it either. Let's talk 17.
Listen, Garrett Wilson signed that contract yesterday.
That was big.
It was huge. It absolutely
game changer.
It was a game changer, especially considering they're very similar type players. But the difference, Sheldon,
age.
Yeah, man. One's 26, one's 30. That has something to do with this now.
A fresh 26 and a fresh 30.
Yeah.
You know.
And no offense to Terry, that's my guy. You know, you obviously when you guys watch this, you see the intro to the show, you see that's my guy. The video's in there. But 30 with miles, okay? He's done everything for this team over those 6 years. With, you know, I mean, he caught the ball from everybody but Moses. I mean, literally, he's had like over 30 quarterbacks. I mean, legitimately, he's probably caught passes from more than 20 quarterbacks, and I mean that sincerely. That's unheard of. But the reason why the Garrett Wilson contract is so big is because Garrett Wilson's been in the same situation with all the quarterback carousel going on in New York with the Jets, and he's still produced. And he's 26, so that $130 million, $90 million guaranteed. I was just sitting here last week trying to break down Terry, and I spoke to a cap person, and it was like, look, if Terry can get $70 million guaranteed, it's a done deal. I don't care. He said, I don't care what the yearly is. If he can walk away with 70, Garrett got $90 million. Does that make you, if you're Terry, did the hair raise up on your arm? And you know they're Ohio State boys, so he probably knew. But does that make you think, okay, well, if Garrett's getting $90 million guaranteed, and he's 4 years younger than me, I get it. But I'm the guy right now for a team that's a legit Super Bowl contender. New York's not no Super Bowl contender. They're not even a playoff contender. So with that said, does Terry need to get at least $80 million guaranteed?
Let me just put it this way for the good folks that's listening on the radio right now, because I know a lot of you guys that's listening right now, you got opinions on this. I would really like to hear what you had to say also. However, I'm in the seat, and I say this. I know Adam Peters is a good friend of yours, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should call him up. Because here's the scene. You probably should have made this deal last week, or make this happen last week, because what just happened at the New York Jets just made this road a little longer.
Do you think so?
I think so, because it gives Terry the platform to want and ask for more. I mean, you got to know your worth.
Yeah, but you also have to, you do have to factor in those 4 years are an eternity in sports language. 4 years, like 4 years to the average person walking the street like us who aren't playing professional sports. 4 years is 4 years. I mean, you know, you're 35 and I'm 31. Yeah, that's different, and that's not our age. But I'm just saying, we still there. You know, we still can go out together. If you are 4 years difference in sports terms, that's like a cycle. That's almost a full cycle of a contract. That's like the difference between a senior in college and a true freshman walking in.
A true good freshman.
A true good freshman. Big difference, man.
Here's the thing. It's difficult. Like it's a situation a lot of teams actually wish they're in. It's difficult to analyze this situation without being a true fan of this team.
Yes.
And talk about it as a true fan of this team.
Yes.
Where my heart personally as a fan of this team is 100% Terry. You know, the car I have is a 2019. You understand what I'm saying? It's state of the art. Runs like a champ. You know, well oiled. It matches up when I pull up to a 2024 Mercedes-Benz on the street. My car, right? The S90 that I have still sits pretty, looks good. She's attractive, you understand, and she runs well. However, she ain't a 2025 that's on the road.
No.
You understand? So the thing about
depreciation happens.
Yeah, it happens. So then as a fan, I'm thinking, okay, I want Terry to be here. Let's make this deal happen. He's been here. He's a leader in the locker room. He is who he is in the community, and he's a guy that's true to his word. He's never been a diva. You know what I'm saying? Take care of the brother. But then again, you look at it on the business side. So, you know, I lean to the understanding of the professionals like yourself, because to be honest with you and to be honest with your listeners, I can't cross the threshold of being a fan. I want Terry back. And that's just the God's honest truth.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that is one of the hardest things to balance when you have a relationship with players. You know, you get along with certain guys and you want to see them do well. You know, people always say, well, aren't you a fan of the Commanders? I mean, I'm from D.C. My heart's always going to want this team to do well. But more importantly, I cheer for individuals. You know, I'm an Adam Peters fan, big time. I'm a Dan Quinn fan, big time. One of my college friends, Bobby Ingram, wide receiver coach for the team, went to Penn State with me back in graduated in '94. I mean, so. And
you believe they know what they're doing, right?
Yeah, 100%. They know what they're doing.
So let me put you in the seat, Lake. All right, you, Lake Lewis Jr., are now the GM for the Washington Commanders. Big news. You heard it here today. Lake Lewis, what are you doing with Terry McLaurin?
Well, me personally, because we're not cap strong, we have a surplus of money this year, and factoring in that the fact that the league is the salary cap has gone up yet again. So over the last 2 years, Sheldon, the salary cap in the NFL has gone up over $50 million per team. So there's money out there. Again, I'm in a situation, I'm the GM now, where there's a franchise quarterback here. In years past, you would have had to have paid a Terry McLaurin any kind of money to keep him, because you needed to sell tickets, you needed people to want to show up, and you needed some hope on the field. Well, now you don't need hope because it's real, because you have a franchise quarterback. But what's the best thing you can do for a franchise quarterback?
It's give him weapons.
Give him weapons and keep his security blanket. Zach Ertz is back. Terry McLaurin should be back, okay? So the question you have to ask is, what is the worth of Terry McLaurin? Is it top 10 receiver, paid-wise, or is it top 5? This is where, if I'm Adam Peters, you're looking at it this way. Has Terry ever produced top 5 numbers in a season, with the exception of last year? And you're probably going to say, some people are going to say, you sure he has? Well, no, he hasn't. He's had really good numbers, but last year was the second Pro Bowl that he made. Okay, and it was the second consecutive Pro Bowl. So, I'm going up and down here because Terry's folks are looking at it like Terry's been trending up 2 years in a row. Then he gets an elite franchise quarterback last year, and boom, 13 touchdowns, his best season ever. Can he do that again? If this was a perfect world, they'd see if Terry can do it again and then break him off big.
So once again, you are the GM. I just crowned you. What are you doing?
So what I'm doing is I'm going to Terry and I'm saying, hey, listen, we're going to give you a contract extension, 2 years with a third year option. We're going to pay you $30 million for each year. So it's a $60 million contract, and then I'd probably make $50 million of that guaranteed. Now, we know most of the time you don't do 2-year contracts, so let's just say we give him a 3-year contract.
Okay, because he ain't going to do the
Absolutely. So now they're coming back to me. So, okay, I had this other one sitting there.
Okay.
I just wanted to see if you was going to do it first.
Now.
Right.
Okay, all right.
And his people were going to be like, absolutely not. We're not doing a 2-year deal.
Whip
Okay.
it out.
So now you got a 3rd-year deal. That 3rd-year deal is 3-year deal. If it's $30 million a year, that's $90 million, and then I'm making $70 million of that guaranteed. And I'm gonna say to him, you and I can put some other incentives in there.
I was going to ask.
You get X amount of touchdowns again. We might add another million or something on there. But the point is what I'm selling him is that we're getting you a lot of money, and we are prepared to really take flight and go on the Super Bowl run, but we still need some other things that we have to address. So we're asking you, we're going to pay you, but we're also asking you to maybe just a little small hometown discount, and I don't mean a discount of $10-15 million. I'm talking a discount of maybe $2 million that you can give to a veteran out there that, a Jadeveon Clowney who's not signed with anyone, a defensive end, who you probably could bring in here on a lower end deal for 1 year.
I would really like to hear from the folks out there. Hopefully, we don't know what's going to happen within this next week, if Terry's going to be signed or not. But if he's not, I'm going to talk to your folks and let them, join into this conversation next week. We want to hear from you because it's so interesting. There's so many different talking points and topics just as far as what Terry is concerned. And I'm going to bring up another one because I've heard Terry McLaurin is a top 10 wide receiver in the league.
100%.
I heard he's a top 12. Yesterday on a certain show, he was number 15. So I'm going to bring it to the Lake Lewis show right now. Yes, I am actually going there.
Because that's a good laugh. I needed one.
I got a number of myself, but I'm going to bring it to you, Lake. In the wide receiver totem pole, where's Terry right now for you?
Now.
And give me the number where he's at.
Right now for me, I have Terry at number 4. Because of what he showed me last year. Remember, I was the guy.
The Kool-Aid?
No, listen. I'm gonna give you the reasons why. I was the guy that last year, before the season started, some fans were coming at me because they said that I said Terry was mid, and I never said that. I don't even use words like that. That's young folks talk. What I said was Terry was a Pro Bowl caliber receiver. But what I need to see, because I know what I was seeing in rookie minicamp and training camp with Jayden, I said I need to see Terry now go to another level, and we'll see if he can. Can he become an elite receiver? And fans here were like, well, he's already been doing that. He's 5 years, 1,000 yards, and I'm like, stop it. There's one thing when you know what you see, and when you see an elite receiver. I saw a very good receiver with Terry.
You said 4.
But after the year he had last year, because he had an elite quarterback, getting him the ball and also putting balls where Terry can be the only one to make plays, which he did all throughout last year. I have Terry at number 4. I think the 1 and 2, there's no debate. You can debate each one as far as Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase.
Let's go down the line.
Okay.
Let's go down the line. You do one, I do 2, so go.
Jamar Chase.
Okay, JJ.
Okay, this is for me where the third one becomes.
I want to see where you're going here, Lake. How much time we have left?
I know where I'm going with it
we got
because
11 minutes. Let's go.
I know where I'm going. I'm going AJ Brown because I just think he's an absolute animal.
So Chase, JJ, Brown for you. Okay, Chase, JJ. I'm at Puka, number 3.
See, this is the thing. No offense to Puka because he's really good,
bro.
But Puka is part of a system. Let me say this from knowing.
Have you seen
Sean McVay?
this guy?
Sean McVay is my dude. That's my boy, literally. Sean McVay comes from that tree of with Shanahan and they're boy wonders as far as putting together offensive game plans. Remember, Cooper Kupp was doing what Puka's getting ready to start doing now.
But he's doing it.
Or he's doing it. But what I'm saying is, if Terry McLaurin and Puka replaced each other, Terry McLaurin would put up those numbers. I don't care what number one receiver you put in L.A., in that system with Sean McVay, they're going to put up ridiculous numbers because it's the system. I'm not saying Puka is a system player only. He's really good. To me, he's a top 6 receiver.
Okay, so
but when you have to make a play because there is no system for you, and you've done that for 5 years until last year where there was a legit system, offensive system, that's telling me that you can make a play. Justin Jefferson is doing crazy things in Minnesota with name his last 3 quarterbacks. You can't. That's the whole point. He's throwing up numbers. You look at Jamar Chase. What's the one thing Jamar Chase has in common ever since he stepped foot in the NFL?
Has in common with who?
With just why he's great.
I mean, he's Justin Chase.
Jamar Chase is great because he's a great football player.
Jamar Chase,
but what is the one thing that he has that
Burrow?
He has Joe Burrow and he has T. Higgins on the other side.
Okay.
When has Terry ever had any of that?
Okay, so AJ Brown's number 3. Okay.
Terry 4.
Terry 4.
That's just me. I know St. Brown and Detroit's good.
St. Brown is my number 4.
But this is the thing about St. Brown, and I'm just saying this. You got to look at this picture.
Hey, don't think I don't. I love Terry.
No, I know. Okay? I know what you're saying.
He might be watching.
I know. I listen.
He might watch your show.
And you not going to be able to come to camp now because of Terry.
Probably not. Terry, if you're watching, enjoy Paris. We see you in Paris. And your
this is what I do as an insider. I look at the full scenario. So when you look at players, okay, and you were talking about St. Brown, great football player, liked him when he was at USC. But this is the thing: he had Jared Goff. He has Jared Goff, who went to the Super Bowl with the Rams, so he's had some success before Detroit. Jamison Williams, first-round wide receiver, is a monster.
It's a beast.
Sam Laporta, their tight end, Pro Bowler. I didn't even get to the juice of their team. Their backfield, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles. And on top of that, Detroit, probably outside of Philadelphia, those are the 2 best offensive lines in all of football. They're loaded. I'm saying this. Put Terry in his spot and put him in Terry's spot over these past 5-6 years, and it won't be no record-breaking contracts from St. Brown. I'm just being upfront about that.
What is St. Brown getting paid?
He set the bar a couple years ago. I think it was like $120 million 4 years ago, with like $80 million guaranteed. And at the time, he wasn't recognized as a top 5 receiver at the time, and they broke him off. So give Detroit kudos because they had foresight, to do that. But what I'm saying is Adam Peters does not want to break the bank, and he clearly doesn't want to reset the market. But if there ever was a player that's deserving of it, Terry would be the guy. But the problem is Terry's age. I have no doubt about it that after seeing that contract yesterday with Garrett Wilson, who's 26 years old, the 4th youngest guy to ever have in his first 3 seasons in the league, 80 receptions or more each season and 1,000 yards or more each season. Yeah, man. I mean, he's deserving of the money he got. And because of that, that does make me think with Terry, you probably have to raise it a little bit more than lower it a little bit because of his age. I'll give you that.
Okay, Lake, we got 7 minutes left. Is this deal going to get done? And
Yes,
is it
it
getting
will.
done before training camp?
Yes, it will. And I think my prediction is, and I've said it earlier on the show, now it's 11:54 on July 15th.
You know,
I'm saying,
know him with these predictions.
yeah,
folks.
man, they most of them come true. And they're not predictions. They're just, accurate things.
I would say you've been pretty accurate.
Well, I think Terry's getting done. I think let me just say this. I think Terry will have it done before we even we're back on this show next week. Okay, so I thought we had a caller coming in, but I guess we didn't. So
Before next week Tuesday,
I think Terry's deal will be done. Yeah.
Folks, you heard it here, folks, on the Lake Lewis Jr. show with the prediction and the Kool-Aid by next
There's
week.
no Kool-Aid. I don't drink Kool-Aid. That's bad for you.
I'm just saying, you got the Commander's Kool-Aid, okay? The CK. You've always known for it. You've always given the predictions, and a lot of them come out right. We're going to see by next week. At least I hope you're right, because I do want him here. If it goes north, if this thing goes, not north, if it goes south, if it goes left.
Okay, if it goes left.
Right. Left. And let's say left as something we don't even want to talk about. Let's go into the left. And Terry is not. Who replaces Terry?
Debo. Debo. And then
They're going to have to bring somebody in here.
But I'm going to say this. There's a reason why I don't even think about that, because I just know with all the business acumen and the way they've constructed everything in that building, there's no way they're going to take this franchise into these new heights and not do it with the blueprint player for what you want as far as a captain, as far as a face of a franchise, as far as a leader.
To end his career,
for someone to end this team, exactly.
You want his number up.
And someone that was just as important as Jayden was for Terry last year, Terry was for Jayden last year. And you bring in a guy like Debo. You didn't go out and get Debo Samuel to be your number one. No. You bought him in to be your 1A. To be your 1B, because you have Terry as your one, and then Debo is your 1A. So it's a two-headed monster that they want out there to open up the offense even more for Jayden. And you don't go out and get these pass protectors and do all these things, to make this team better, to be able to challenge a Philadelphia or a Detroit for that matter, to not have your best weapon. That doesn't make any sense.
So I know, folks, you guys listening out there to the show today, you have your opinions. I want you to call in next week. We want to hear from you, hear what you have to say. And let's see if he's signed by this time next week. When does training camp start again?
It should be Monday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I will be there, and we'll have to see as far as Tuesday. Obviously, we're doing the show, but I may be doing the show from training camp. So, which would be pretty cool to some fans, I'm sure.
Are we going to interview any players?
You're not allowed to do that during training camp. We can do it as far as, after practice in the media and things like that, as far as through the team, but not individual stuff. But when training camp is done, I have several players that have already told me that they will be coming on this show. And, all you got to do is go on my YouTube and you'll see players on my stuff all over the place. So, yes, that's what we'll be doing.
Well, definitely. I'm looking forward to it, in training camp of itself, and also to be out there. You ready for this heat?
I'm ready, man. Ready as I'll ever be. So,
it's hot, Lake.
It is. It's brutally hot. So, folks, we got to wrap it up. Appreciate you joining us here on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show, brought to you by Crossover Meats here on WOL. Have a great remaining part of your day, and we'll see you next week. And we'll come back next week with Terry having his contract.
Hail to the W.